So thank you so much for sharing some of that time with media educators.
Oh, thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. This is actually what I made this film for, to be able to talk to the educators.
At the core of Confetti is the story of a mother and her dedication to helping her daughter with dyslexia, which affects, I did not know this, 10 to 30% of the population worldwide. That's remarkable. It's also about immigration and education. What are the parallels between the story in the film and your story?
Well, I'm an immigrant, and I came to this country in 1979. And then back and forth between China and America. But mainly I work and I live and, spend my life here. And I'm an American today. But you can never stop being an immigrant. Like even today, it's a struggle for me to still trying to understand the system. I mean, the medical system, the political system, the education system, I mean, you name it. Everything is a system. Since my daughter had this situation, and I did a lot of research, and there are a lot of people, actually, this is an inherited kind of like a condition that because I mean, the base is so huge, and most people wouldn't want to talk about it. And most of the time they felt it's just that they're not smart enough. It's like there are different levels of course, dyslexia, and it makes you feel like you can manage to be normal. And sometimes you are not, you cannot pretend. And so for me, it's like the immigrant part is the background. And basically, I can just give to that character. And then for the mother figure, I feel I experienced so many stories along my journey, and I met with all those mothers, particularly parents whose children are dyslexic or having learning disabilities. And I could feel their tension, their anxiety, this kind of like stress. And I share that. I didn't know about my daughter's situation until she was 3. Actually, it was pretty early. And because her English teacher, she came to tell me, Jen.
She was in China.
Yeah, she is a Australian. And okay. She worked at that time in China. It's like she told me that your daughter may have dyslexia. I said, what is that? Never heard of. Oh, is that bad or is that good? I mean, is that talent or whatever? And she said, it's like you have to learn differently. It's difficult to learn most of the time because my husband, my 2 sons are dyslexic. Okay. So, so she knew right away. Okay. And then, while Michelle was growing up until she was 7, you could see her mind works differently. She was like wandering around, when she talks, she goes very, very far, very creative, but jumps. Her logic is totally different. And
he's wired differently.
Very difficult for the first year in the Chinese school, because I wanted her to learn Chinese. Mm-hmm. And she was totally, because most of the kids are already trained to be 3rd grade. They could write compositions and so on and so forth. And Michelle, there was just a total laughing stock. So, the first year was such a struggle that, it was brutal for me to watch, and it's not teachers' fault. It's just an education system, and also the society, have such high expectation of children, and they have such harsh ways of training, the kids. It comes from a few thousand years of culture and civilization. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that. So eventually I have to find the first opportunity to actually bring Michelle to the US. But now here what? The first school, PS something, okay, and didn't really work because they would pull her out from the main classroom to a special ed class, which meets once a day for an hour, mm-hmm. For throughout the week. So basically she will be falling further and further away from the mainstream class, because when she returned, she wouldn't know what actually they taught, and she would never be able to understand, and she felt so left out.
Yeah.
And also they also have a assistant teacher in the main classroom who basically assists all those kids who have problems, but still doesn't work because that teacher keeps on talking and the other main teacher is talking. So you have two groups that are really interrupting each other. No one can concentrate. So I think it really didn't work at all. And then through many headaches and the search, and so eventually, I was applying for all the special ed schools in New York, and like the line was very long, and you're rejected, and then they want you to do some evaluation, which costs $5,000 to be minimum. I mean, the fee is normally like a 10,000, 8,000. It's crazy. Right. Just to get evaluation. You have to have the evaluation to be accepted or something to be evaluated by the school. But eventually we're lucky to get in. And I remember I was actually working. I was in the middle of the Jordan desert. I was like really following, Lawrence Arabia, Lawrence T. Lawrence.
Yes. Yes. What were you doing? What were you doing in the desert? Working on a film?
I was researching and then doing a film project. And by myself. So suddenly I saw this phone suddenly rang, got a signal. And I saw it was Gateway School. Gateway School?
Yes.
Okay, they said you're accepted. So I was like jumping. It's like unbelievable. Then after that, it was it was all me. Okay, including my not being able to understand what special education was supposed to do to my teacher. All the misunderstandings I had. So that was that. Okay.
So, all of these personal experiences, when did they begin to shape themselves into a movie?
Oh, it was after my daughter became like independent, like when she turned a teenager, and she really didn't really need me that much. And also, it's like school taught her to be the students to be critical thinking, if you know what that means. And I think, like at the third grade, they began to have this roundtable debate every week. So they debate on everything. Whatever I tell her to do, it's always a no. It was never a yes, never a yes. So I was thinking, it might be better off for me just to put this experience together and into a film than trying to follow her to see what she's really doing, right? She's doing great, and she just made the headmaster list last year. She's in high school.
Very good.
And so she turned very beautiful and extremely confident. I think that's like what kids are nowadays. They because teachers kept on telling them from very, very young that you are the best. So you are the best, you are the best. So they always walk around, oh, I'm the best. Whether they are or they're not, doesn't really matter, I guess.
I mean, I know this is about immigration and many other issues, but this is not Marvel Comics. How did you put together a package to get this made?
Well, you just have to see what they're interested in. Like a lot of people sort of had this learning disability growing up. But of course, like if you say, I'm making a story about learning disability, forget it. You got to say, and also, which is true, I find that it is really a curse or blessing. Like you get so many great people. I mean, like a Churchill or Picasso, Spielberg,
yes.
And so many great people, Einstein, they're dyslexic. So you got to say, well, the film is really about that switch, like it's like from something that's very obscure to become a diamond.
It takes place, it has a duality. It has a Chinese base, it has a New York City base, you even have two cinematographers. Tell us about working in two separate cultures and crews.
Well, of course, it is two different worlds, but film language is more or less the same. And I've been doing this in all my film career. So I'm experienced in figuring out as to how to actually make the style consistent. How do you communicate? And particularly if you want the film to be understandable, accessible to both audiences, you got to make sure that the Chinese will recognize the film as Chinese authentic, and the American would be able to recognize, accept the film or the story or the language is authentic, and in the way that they can understand, accept, and appreciate. So, because some of the Chinese are just not accessible in the States, and some American films are not accessible to the international audience.
Right.
So it is really that switch. It got to be something, again, it's like something in me that you have to constantly being a filter when you deal with a crew. It's like when you're working with a Chinese crew, I double check always, is this still authentic, or this is like me 20 years ago, okay? Or it's like no longer the vocabulary. And they kept on telling me, and would this be something you want to see? So, and then with the American, even more so, because it is authentic English, or it's my immigrant English, and for the Chinese mother and for the Chinese, I guess, actors here in the US, yeah, and sometimes I have to make them specifically speak very, very broken English. For example, there are a couple of times the mother, when she called Helen, the Amy's character, right? Her accent became too fluent. It's like she says, Helen, and people would think, if she was only in the States for 3 weeks, where did she get that fluency and also that, like a flowy kind of a tone? Right. So during the post-production, we really have to change, to dub that Helen into a Chinese Helen. It's like Helen, Helen, instead of Helen.
These are the small details that make filmmaking exasperating and wonderful.
I know.
You mentioned the actors. Zuzu is your choice for Lan, the mother. Was she your first choice?
She wasn't, but she turned out to be the best. Okay. Yeah.
Had you worked with her before?
No, I haven't, but just so happened that we realized that her father was an old friend of mine after we met.
Oh,
so yeah, so that helped.
Helen Slater, these are A-list names. How did you reach out to them?
Oh, I'm sure you grew up with Amy Irving, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got to meet her a couple of times doing reviews for films, and she's always been wonderful.
Yeah. I know, she's fantastic. And because she was so well trained and she came from such a performing acting family and very, very academic. And so in her, you almost see this Shakespearean quality. Mm-hmm. So like when I work with her, I mean, of course, she was my first choice, but when really working with her, I find often that I have to be on my toes, because if I didn't come prepared, or if I wasn't in my best, she would notice and she would know. And because she has been around, she's been there, she's done it, she's been with the best. So, I mean, I know I'm far from being the best, but still, I feel I need to prove to her that I belong here, right?
And Helen Slater is great in the film. I know when she first came on the scene as Supergirl, she had to act opposite on her first film, Peter O'Toole and Faye Dunaway. So that's a challenge. Tell us about working with Helen Slater.
Oh, she's fantastic. She's so easygoing, always so happy, always a big smile. And, she has this personality. She can just be anything. Like being this school principal that she's performing. I mean, she's like portraying. You got to have that very stern as you know, educator, you got to have that, like a very stern quality, meaning, there's a ground rule, no one really go across, and yet you have to show humanity. And I think for her to eventually come over in the night and not to even take a taxi and walking along, just to deliver the news that, Mei Mei was accepted, and then just walk away. That alone, I think, was like showing her humanity that we haven't seen before. So I think for people to love her, that's so important. But I mean, in real life, and I remember for that scene, she just came over and she just delivers that news. And I didn't think that she wanted to deliver that news in an overly excited, happy way, but she did. So we did 2 takes.
Okay.
And so we did this very solemn kind of formal way of telling. And another way, she just came all happy and delivered the news. And then, of course, it didn't end up into the cut.
Lastly, Harmony Heat is just the most delightful little girl. Where did you find her?
Yeah, I actually really gave her a hard time testing her. I asked her mother to once I wanted to see if she can sing or dance in her range, right? And for a long time, we couldn't decide. And then I remember once I called her mother up and just wanting to see her doing some gymnastic, because she said she could do gymnastic. And her mother was driving on the highway, and so she had to pull aside, and she didn't want to make it difficult. And so she pulled aside and took Harmony to a piece of grassland. And then I could hear the wind, zoo, zoo, zoo. And then so I said, well, let's do some gymnastic. So the kid started jumping,
Oh my
and she
God.
was very young then, So, and also the first part when she was shooting, actually it was a little difficult because, as a kid, after you deliver your line, and other people are performing, you're supposed to stay with the character, right? Mm-hmm. But the kid, they forgot, right? So they would just, after they deliver, they would begin to do their own things, So basically ruined other actors' takes or the entire take. So we have to redo again. And the way I talked to her, and she was a little, in the beginning, a little on the guard, a little leery. So I have to really tell the mother, what this is supposed to mean. And the mother tells her, and her mom turned out to be the best director of Harmony. Because anything we want, we'll tell the mother, and then the kid will deliver. It was unbelievable. The most supportive mother. Mom
gets the second AD credit. So you shot in China, and then you shot in New York City, and thank you for using New York City for New York City.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so which is easier? Is it easier to shoot in China, or is it easier to shoot in New York City?
Well, I didn't have great luck, and it wasn't easy. One is tougher than the other. So the first time it was the toughest. And we basically didn't finish. We lost all the production budget. We had to leave because we lost our lead actress.
This is in China?
And we lost the lead actress. Then we lost the lead actor, and we had to wrap and decide to shoot the U.S. first. So we lost the entire China budget.
Oh my goodness.
Come back to New York, and the New York was this toughest shoot I ever had. And I don't know why it was that difficult. It was so difficult. It's like so difficult. And afterwards, then we had to go back to China to shoot. And then it was like, oh my God, it was so difficult. But the last shot was this, you saw occasionally this confetti in the sky, floating. That was our last shot. Okay, it was a like no sound, so you were just basically, puff up some confetti to the air and you shoot it.
Right.
And then so we just keep on doing that. And we finished all the footage and we're having fun, but just keep on shooting, And then in the end, after we finished, all those confetti is falling on the ground. And suddenly you don't realize, before you realize you're in this wonderland. It was a bleak, cold winter in January, I think January, February. And it was so cold, it was so gray, everything was like very miserable around you. But then suddenly everything you turned was colored. I mean, it was all confetti around you. For the first time in my life, I cried unconsciously without knowing that you're crying. That's like how happy you are. It's like you get to the top of Everest.
Yeah.
Many people cry because they did it. I mean, it's just a film. I didn't have to, but I mean, that shows like how much toughness I really had to go through. I mean, this was
Mount Everest, making a movie, they're pretty much the same.
Oh, gee,
Okay.
It was tough. Yeah.
The film also, of course, deals with education in two countries. Which education system is better, China or New York?
I have to say, it's not comparing apple to oranges. I mean, it's like it's not apple to apple.
Right.
It's really apple to orange in a sense, because the mentality is just like are two different animals. It's not the same. I mean, they're all animals, but they're two different animals. And you can't really match, And in China, the education has been, like the most important thing for, I don't know, dozens of centuries. I mean, you get that from text of thousands of years ago, talking about education. And you had a system that kids would just study from 2 or 3 years old, the most difficult test, and become such known, such well established scholars. And it's all about scholars. So the knowledge has always been the value of the person. I mean, it's like education is that. And it's all about harsh training, tough love. Okay, and it's all about becoming and achieving and someone, something. I mean, unless you're that, you are not a success. So every parent, every teacher is trained to teach their kids, to bring up the kids in that fashion. It's all about going to the best school, having the best score. It's just like Chinese gymnastics. You can see, it's like precise, not a second. Extra stuff, right? Yeah. But in America, I think it was really about cultivating a person to be a full human being. I mean, that is the standard for achievement. I feel that's the education system we get. Because, I mean, the first grade, Chinese first grade, easily equals to the third grade or fourth grade in the US. Oh. It's not about knowledge. And the knowledge, the capacity of knowledge and capacity of taking in, hard knowledge in China is unbelievable. But here it's really, I mean, for my daughter, it's first of all, if you tell her the best, it's about confidence. In China, you never, ever, ever challenge your teacher, which is, you can be expelled like right away. And you don't challenge your superior either. And here, of course, it's democratic and it's like everyone has opinion. Everyone likes to voice, who they are, which is fine. And then it's just like, so everyone is asking a question when they see something. So this is like what my daughter is trained about. And she's such a debater that, I'm not her match. I mean, I'm really not her match. Because she has the skill. If not this, she uses that. If not that, it's that. She never stops and she never loses. It's like, and also you see, she's not afraid to fail because she knows she can try again. And also she tries everything. She tries everything out of interest, not out of a to satisfy expectation
Mhm.
of her teacher or me. I gave her no expectation. Whatever you can be, just be happy. And now she has to make her own mistakes. Because she will say everything I told her, she would say no, which means she would have to make mistakes because she doesn't listen, right? And I realized that actually it's important for her to learn. She learned from her mistakes. She doesn't learn from what you tell her.
Dr. Edith Reese asks, tell us about your research for the film. Students with dyslexia are being educated in schools throughout the United States nowadays in regular settings and have been. So tell us real quick about your research in treating dyslexia in schools in America.
There's a program that you follow, and so it's provided, in a fashion, in that way. But the mainstream school teachers, although they like what I learned, my own experience, it was a very nice Upper West Side public school, and you can tell, and every teacher loved their work, and they're very good at what they're doing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
even the teacher told me, we heard about it, but I'm not an expert to teach her in the way dyslexic kids supposed to learn. They learn differently, and I do not have that skill tool, that toolbox to really make this knowledge passed on to them.
Okay.
So it was suggested that you got to go to some special schools, and then there are a lot of private schools you go to.
Next one, a member writes, I love the fact that we never fully know the backstory of Helen, of Amy Irving, and her loss, or even why she's in a wheelchair. We assume it's some sort of an accident. Was there ever more about this in another version of the screenplay?
She lost her son.
Yes.
And in a car accident, and from that accident, she lost her legs, in a sense, ability to walk. So that was it. And then she was alone, and it was difficult being alone in New York when you're like an elder lady, and she's struggling with her career, and so money is not sufficient, and then she cannot really afford real helpers, because in her condition she does need helper, and she doesn't have children to support her. She was all alone. So that was her struggle, but she's very proud.
Dr. Robert Takach, the fact that Mei Mei ends up being quite special and gifted is a great part of the story, but there are many, many, many students who are not gifted and need care for dyslexia to help with their daily lives.
I feel like her being gifted is a way of telling all the kids that they're special in some way. And I think, every person has to have something. I mean, it's like if you cannot read and write, but then you can do something else better, probably than the average. And or that can be maybe your best is other people's average, but that's okay. I mean, just to maintain you being still useful to help others and to survive in this world, and also for you to open up to accept yourself and cultivating what that is good about you. And I'm sure that's what teachers are doing, but still, I guess the focus is really in how to cultivate that confidence and how to cultivate a capacity to love. If they have this too, they can figure out ways to go on life happy, and they can always have the capacity to offer help to others, because in this world, the help will never be enough. I mean, you can always, find someone you can help.
Our members, after seeing the film, also gave some comments on the film, and a number of them said, "Okay, the father has got to stop smoking. You've got to get him to stop smoking." And a couple other members asked, "What is the significance of the crushed walnuts?" Even on your website, when you have resources, the walnuts there. So what is the significance there?
Okay, two things about father smoking. Okay, he's an actor, and if he doesn't move around, he will become self-conscious. So the thing is, whenever he delivers something, whenever he acts, he has to find things to do, right? So smoking becomes a prop, right? So whenever he smokes, when he's doing these things, then you don't see, certain actors can just stay here without moving, and then everything, the face will be able to grab you.
Right.
But he's the active kind of actor. He has to do things. Okay. I mean, it's a choice we made on the set, because otherwise the scene wouldn't work, So it was, I mean, I know. Next time.
And the walnut?
I mean, he doesn't smoke, actually. He's not
Oh,
a smoker.
gosh.
No, he's not a smoker. And, he just had to pretend, because that gave him something not to focus on himself, but on things, on doing things.
Right. Okay. Actors want to know what to do with their hands. And the walnut?
Walnut, like in China, I think it's an old belief for centuries that, walnut is like the nourishment for the brain. If you want to cultivate your brain, you just keeps on eating walnuts. It looks like a brain, it's like it's fine. So everyone is eating walnut to be smarter. Okay, so if you want to read and write, just eat the walnut. So when the mother finally smashed that walnut, because she kept on eating and didn't work, right? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And the film opens where and when?
August 20th, around the country, about some 30, 40 screens.
Well, then we wish you best of luck with the film and the release, and thank you so much for taking time out to talk about film and education in two great countries. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I thank you, and also teachers behind you, because they are really the best teachers. Of all the teachers I met around the world, American teachers are the best. They really care. They really care. They really are interested in what they're doing and the way they're taking care of kids with such love and also, patience. Me being a mother, I wouldn't be able to do what they are doing. So, my greatest respect for them. And if there's anything I can do to somehow help them out a little bit, I'm all here. Just reach out to me.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Again, best wishes and good luck with the film.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay. Bye-bye. Nice talking to you.
Bye. Thank you so much.